In the bustling heart of Monroe High, Mia Reynolds sat at a long, polished table in the brightly lit cafeteria. Her friends flanked her, their chatter a murmur of gossip and laughter, but the energy in the room changed the moment Ethan Carter's name floated into the air. Ethan Carter. Mia rolled her eyes, her annoyance palpable. The name alone felt like a weight on her chest, and she couldn't help but sigh. Ethan wasn't just any student, he was the guy who seemed to have it all together. Tall, athletic, and charming, he effortlessly navigated the social landscape, moving between groups like a skilled diplomat. So when he announced his intention to run for student body president, it sent ripples through the student community. Many admired him. Mia simply scoffed. "I just can't with him," she muttered, her eyes darting across the room. Her friends nodded, sharing her disdain. As the cafeteria buzzed around them, Mia's mind wandered back. She remembered a pivotal drill in gym class. Ethan had tossed a basketball effortlessly into the hoop, and the way he laughed with his teammates made Mia grind her teeth. She whispered, feeling the familiar twinge of jealousy mixing with disdain. The weeks passed and the election grew closer. Posters of Ethan plastered the walls, his smiling face always inviting. They proclaimed. Each time Mia walked past one, she felt heat rise in her chest. She imagined tearing down one of those posters, but she knew that would only give him more attention. Still, it wasn't just about the posters or his charming smile. The truth was, Mia didn't want to see him win because Ethan represented everything she felt insecurity about. In the hallways, his laughter echoed, drowning out the murmur of her own hopes and dreams. She watched as students crowded around him, hanging onto his every word. Somewhere deep down, she worried her voice would never mean anything compared to his. One day, the student council called for a meeting to determine the candidates. Mia found herself sitting at the same table as Ethan and other students. As they went around the room, discussing their visions for the school, the tone shifted when Ethan began to speak. At first, his words were smooth like butter, calming everyone's doubts, but then something unexpected happened. He shared a story about his struggle in debate class, how his confidence had faltered in front of an audience. Mia blinked, taken aback for a moment. Could this perfect guy really have doubts? He talked about pushing through fear and how much he wanted to help every student feel included. She glanced around the table, noticing faces of students who were nodding in agreement. It was startling how earnest he sounded. The room seemed to collectively lean into his words. Mia couldn't deny the spark of respect creeping in, though her instinct was to shove it down. "Let's keep the focus on the facts," she thought, shaking her head slightly. As days turned into weeks, the tension in the cafeteria was electric. Everyone speculated on who would win. Mia was caught up in her feelings, torn between wanting to support her friend Helen, who ran against Ethan, and her intense dislike for him. Helen, with her unwavering dedication and genuine kindness, was everything Mia felt a president should be. On election day, as students cast their ballots, Mia's heart raced. In the gym where the votes would be counted, she felt the weight of uncertainty. The room buzzed with anticipation, students whispering about their choices, but Mia stood there, arms crossed, trying to block out the happiness that filled the gym whenever Ethan entered the space. When the teachers finally announced the results, the gym hushed. "And the new president of Monroe High is..." The cheers erupted around the room like a fireworks show, but to Mia it felt like a punch in the gut. Her heart sank as she watched Ethan's face light up. He raised his arms in victory, beaming at the crowd. Mia felt a wave of frustration wash over her. She thought as he hugged his friends who were beaming. Moments later, he approached the podium. He began, glancing at the sea of students. Mia rolled her eyes again. Even the way he spoke was so president-like. Mia's mind whirled as Ethan continued to speak. "I believe in every one of you. Together we can make our school a better place. I've struggled too. I've faced failures." She found herself caught between annoyance and curiosity. It was strange to see someone she had so much disdain for saying things that made sense. It hit her that perhaps he wasn't so different from herself. In that moment, she felt a crack in the wall she had built against him. Weeks after the election, Ethan dove into his new role with a passion that shocked everyone. The first event he organized was a fundraiser for the local community center. Mia noticed little changes around school. The atmosphere felt lighter, more collaborative. Students who had been shy began to find their voices. One afternoon, Mia stumbled upon a committee meeting about the upcoming event. Before she knew it, she was standing in the back of the room, her arms crossed tight. Ethan was leading the discussion, his enthusiasm contagious. The students seemed to hang on his every word, but Mia felt confused. Why was she still judging him? Ethan proposed a new idea. They could bring in local artists to showcase their work. "Art brings us together," he said, his eyes scanning the room, igniting interest. Mia couldn't help but admire the way he was engaging others. It was almost magnetic. Slowly, she began to realize he was making a real difference. The opinion she had held on to for so long began to shift. That night, she lay awake, replaying the committee meeting in her mind. Maybe I judged him too quickly, she mused. The next day, she found herself standing in front of him, nervous energy buzzing in her chest. "Ethan," she said, her voice shaky, "I just wanted to." He looked at her, surprise in his eyes. "Really? Thanks, Mia." It felt like a barrier had broken and they began to talk. Every word exchanged became a stepping stone towards understanding. They planned for the event, their ideas bouncing back and forth. The mutual respect that bloomed between them slowly chipped away at the resentment Mia had held onto for so long. As the art showcase approached, they worked late into the evenings, hammering out details and finalizing plans. It was exhilarating, even thrilling, to see how the students had come together under Ethan's leadership. The night of the event arrived, and the gym was set to come alive with colors and creativity. Mia stepped back and watched as the community poured into the gym. She felt a swell of pride. They did this all together. It was bigger than herself. And there, amidst the chaos, she spotted Ethan chatting and laughing, genuinely pleased with how the night was unfolding. In that moment, she finally understood the power of his name, how it had shifted from a symbol of irritation to one of unity. As the night drew to a close, Mia turned to Ethan, her heart full. "You did it," she said, beaming. He smiled back, that boyish charm evident, but something new flickered in his eyes. "No, we did it." The air was different surrounding them. The tension melted away. Mia realized that her rolling eyes had only masked her own insecurities. In every flip of disdain lay a chance to understand. She had let herself be consumed by judgments instead of opening herself to possibilities. That night, as they stood amidst a throng of laughter, creativity, and triumph, Mia felt something shift within her, an understanding that sometimes change comes not from the name attached to the role, but from how that name operates and inspires change. No longer did she just see Ethan Carter as the boy she rolled her eyes at. Now, he was part of a journey they had undertaken together, one filled with growth, respect, and a newfound friendship that defied the judgments she'd once held so tightly. The moment the gym door swung open, a hush fell over the room. Mia Reynolds could feel the weight of 100 pairs of eyes searching for her reaction. The air was electric, something pivotal was about to happen. She glanced at the student council members sitting at the long table, and it hit her, a sinking feeling like she just stepped onto a roller coaster that zoomed straight down. Ethan Carter, the principal's voice echoed through the gym, moments before the results of the student body election were announced. The wave of cheers crashed into her, a tsunami of excitement that felt both alien and foreign. Mia's stomach twisted as she rolled her eyes, unable to hide her disappointment. This was the same Ethan Carter who seemed to glide through high school, charming everyone he met. And here he was, basking in the glory of his victory, like a star who had ascended to a throne made of glitter and charm. Of course," she muttered under her breath, her friend Sarah standing beside her. The two exchanged glances, both of them echoing the same silent agreement. Ethan was not the guy for the job. Just weeks ago, Mia had felt a surge of annoyance every time his name was mentioned in discussions about the presidency. He was the golden boy, the star athlete, the guy with the perfect smile. But it wasn't just that. It was how he always seemed to lord his popularity over everyone else, like a king among peasants. She despised that kind of arrogance, even if it was wrapped in a pretty package. Mia's mind drifted back to the first time she encountered Ethan's charm. It was during a pep rally, the whole school buzzing with energy. He had just won the basketball game, and everyone chanted his name like a mantra. "Ethan, Ethan." The whole gym erupted, and Mia found herself standing there, feeling completely out of place in the wave of adoration washing over him. His laugh echoed through the crowd, infectious but hollow to her ears. The nickname made her skin crawl. "He's just a guy who can shoot hoops," she had scoffed, unable to fathom why the rest of her classmates revered him so much. Now, as she stood in the gym, the spotlight shining brighter than ever on Ethan, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of jealousy mixed with disdain. "This is so unfair," she thought bitterly. The student council had been flooded with their speeches, and it was clear that Mia's friend Helen had poured her heart into her campaign. Helen was earnest, thoughtful, a leader not just in words but in action. And yet here they were, handing the title to a guy who pranced through life like a golden retriever chasing sunlight. As the days rolled forward, the dust settled with Ethan at the helm. The school buzzed with energy, and even Mia had to admit that he was showering everyone with endless positivity. It was as if he had become the school's very own cheerleader, pushing for a new spirit week and budgeting for a much-needed renovation of the library. But beneath the surface, Mia's resentment festered. She watched as Ethan pulled together a committee to improve school spirit. He swept everyone up in his whirlwind of ideas. Her friends would ask excitedly. But every time the question floated into the air, Mia would shrug, her anger eclipsing any interest in participating. One Wednesday afternoon, however, she saw an invitation on the school bulletin board, urging students to join a forum about mental health awareness. A small part of her felt that this could be an opportunity to make a difference, but she quickly dismissed it as Ethan taking credit for something important. "He's probably just doing it to look good," she grumbled, but her curiosity lingered like a ghost at the back of her mind. The meeting came and went, and much to Mia's surprise, a diverse group of students showed up. She caught snippets of conversations as she listened in from a distance. Ethan spoke passionately about mental health, how it affected so many of their peers. "We need to foster a community where everyone feels safe to share," he urged, his tone earnest. Each word chipped away at Mia's steely facade. Mia's defenses faltered as she watched Ethan, a sincerity radiating from him like warmth. It was mesmerizing. He chuckled gently, telling stories of his own insecurities, how he struggled with the pressure of expectations. "I've been there and I know how lonely it can feel," he said, and in that moment it struck Mia that she could relate. She felt as if he was speaking directly to her heart, stripping away the armor she'd built around her judgments. She couldn't help but wonder why she had never seen this side of him before. Maybe her judgments were blind spot simple views that omitted the complexity of who he actually was. As days turned into weeks, she found herself torn between awe and irritation. Each meeting unveiled another layer of him, the part of Ethan she had dismissed until now. On the day of the community service project, Mia felt an odd pull. A boy in her class had organized a local food drive, and Ethan had jumped on board. She arrived late, her heart racing as she approached the makeshift setup. The gym buzzed with energy, a spirit Mia very much wanted to be a part of. The food was piled high, and Ethan stood at the table, rallying the students like a general in battle. But instead of feeling her usual cynicism, Mia felt drawn to the moment. She watched as he worked tirelessly, encouraging others, rallying help like the natural leader he was. Somewhere deep down, Mia knew she couldn't resist anymore. She had rolled her eyes out of jealousy, but now there was admiration that sparkled through. Gathering her courage, Mia approached him. "Hey," she said, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest. "I just wanted to say." Ethan paused, turning to her, his face lighting up. "Thanks, Mia." His smile was genuine, and for the first time, she noticed how his laughter felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Over the next few weeks, something incredible happened. They started to collaborate, sharing ideas for events and getting the community involved. Mia felt a shift within herself. She began to question her narrow perspective, slowly realizing how strong judgments could blind her to the beauty of collaboration. As they worked together, something unanticipated blossomed between them: friendship. They shared stories and dreams late into the night, discovering layers in each other they hadn't anticipated. Mia let her guards down, and as she did, she found herself laughing at things he said instead of scoffing. They weren't just Ethan and Mia anymore. They were a team, unlocking doors to creativity and hope. An unexpected moment arrived as they stood before an assembly filled with students, ready to reveal their plan for a mental health festival. Mia felt the butterflies in her stomach dance wildly as Ethan began to speak. "We want to create an event that focuses on sharing, on really understanding mental health," he said, his voice smooth yet impassioned. The crowd responded, hanging onto his words, and Mia couldn't help but feel both pride and awe. "This is incredible," she thought. The night of the festival finally arrived, and the excitement shimmered in the air like the stars above. Lights spun around the gym, illuminating art displays created by students, while booths offered information and resources. The atmosphere felt alive, and even amid the chaos, Mia caught sight of Ethan, who sparkled on stage as he rallied the crowd, encouraging everyone to speak freely about their own journeys. But as the event unfolded, a sudden feeling washed over Mia, a sharp pang striking her heart. She hadn't expected this unexpectedly. She recognized the bittersweet reality that she had come to care deeply for someone she once despised. There was so much she had misunderstood about him, and it left her feeling vulnerable. After the festival concluded, the crowd began to disperse, the laughter and chatter fading into soft echoes. Ethan approached her, his eyes shining. "We did it, Mia," she smiled back, but the discomfort swirled within her. "Yeah, we really did," she replied, her voice softening. "I didn't think." It was a confession, one that held a lot of meaning. His expression shifted, eyes locking in a way that made her heart race. "Same here," he said, a slight blush creeping onto his cheeks. In that moment, it clicked for Mia, the turning point. Here was the boy she once rolled her eyes at, and now he was standing before her, not just a figure of rebellion, but someone who had challenged her to reevaluate herself and her assumptions. The darkness of her earlier judgments melted away, replaced by the warmth of newfound respect, a powerful realization that she had gained more than just a friend. She had discovered empathy. Weeks turned into months, and as the school year began to wind down, Ethan's presidency reached new heights. He introduced initiatives that not only bonded students, but also healed wounds that ran deep within the community. Mia had never seen the school so alive, so unified. She marveled at how much change could stem from just one voice that had once annoyed her beyond belief. On the last day of school, Mia stood outside with her friends, the sun basking them in warmth. Ethan passed by, a genuine smile brightening his face. "Hey, Mia," he called out. She nodded, feeling grateful for how far they'd traveled. The earlier hostility seemed like a distant memory, replaced by something far more precious: a friendship rooted in appreciation and understanding. As the ceremony began, Mia watched from her seat, engrossed in Ethan's speech one last time. This time there was no eye-rolling, no cynical thoughts. Each word resonated within her, a celebration of how barriers could be dismantled. Mia had once rolled her eyes at his name, but now it stood for connection, solidarity, and the unexpected twists life had to offer. And all it took was a little patience, a bit of understanding, and a willingness to let go of judgments. In that crowded gym, it was clear Ethan had not just become her friend, he had changed the course of her high school experience forever. The moment Mia Reynolds heard the name Ethan Carter announced over the loudspeaker, she felt her stomach drop. "And the next president of Monroe High is," the principal declared. The gym erupted into applause, but to Mia, it felt like a punch in the gut. She could almost see the shower of confetti falling in slow motion, hear the cheers echoing through the halls as if the entire school was celebrating a victory she didn't understand. Mia rolled her eyes, a reflex that felt all too familiar. The teenage king of charisma had captured yet another crown. Just hours earlier, they had been debating over the candidates during lunch. "It's Ethan, hands down," her friend Sarah had said, her eyes shining with excitement. "Natural leader." Mia had smirked, shaking her head in disbelief. "More like a natural show-off," she argued, her voice dripping with disdain. She recalled last semester's pep rally where Ethan had stood at the center of the gym, basking in the limelight while the rest of the school cheered his name. He flashed that trademark smile, every inch the star. Everyone seemed enchanted, their eyes glittering with admiration, but Mia felt differently. To her, he was nothing more than a well-practiced performer, taking a bow while everyone else played the supporting cast. But as the cheering subsided and the reality set in, Mia found herself grappling with a flood of emotions: anger, confusion, and a hint of envy. Deep down, she feared that this golden boy with his effortless charm would overshadow everything good about her friend Helen's candidacy, even after Helen's heartfelt campaign. Mia's thoughts spiraled back to the campaign speeches days earlier. Helen, with her genuine passion and earnestness, had stood up in front of the school, sharing her vision for a more inclusive environment. She had spoken from the heart, her voice steady but vulnerable. The school community felt it, or so Mia had thought. Ethan's speech had been an entirely different beast. He had expertly woven jokes and charm, but the substance felt thin, almost like a glossy facade. He had joked, and the gym had erupted in laughter. Mia had been unimpressed. How could they fall for such surface-level charisma? As days morphed into weeks, Mia struggled to shake off her feelings. She could hear his name whispered in the halls, could see posters with his smile plastered everywhere. "Vote for Ethan." The anger simmered within her like a pot ready to boil. One rainy afternoon, she found herself sitting in the library, a haven away from the chaos of school life, her thoughts a tangled mess. Mia flipped through her textbook, only half-focused, when she overheard snippets of conversation from the nearby table. "I can't believe Ethan won," a girl gushed. Mia bit her lip to keep from interrupting. She wanted to scream, to tell them that they didn't see what she saw, that underneath all that charm was someone who cared more about popularity than progress. But instead, she held her tongue, yet remained a prisoner of her thoughts. It was just days after his election when Ethan announced his first initiative, a school-wide charity event designed to promote unity and spirit among the students. The idea sent shockwaves through the school. With all the noise surrounding his election, they had finally made a decision that seemed to resonate. Mia couldn't help but raise an eyebrow. "Seriously," she said to Sarah later that day. "What a cliché." "Maybe," Sarah replied, rolling her eyes, "but what's the harm in doing something good?" Mia held her breath. "I suppose," she acquiesced, though the bitterness lingered. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan rallied the students for their charity event. Mia watched as the excitement grew, as students signed up and sunk their teeth into preparations. But her judgment clung tight, like a stubborn shadow refusing to budge. Then came the fateful day of the event. As Mia stepped into the gym, she was hit by a wave of color and noise. Banners hung from the ceiling, and laughter filled the air. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth at the sight of her classmates coming together. But then she saw Ethan standing at the center of it all, smiling broadly as he directed the chaos. "Come on, everyone," he shouted. The words felt rehearsed, and her irritation flared. She fought the urge to roll her eyes again. Then, unexpectedly, his voice rose above the din. He said, planting seeds of connection everywhere he turned. For the first time, Mia listened closely. The way he spoke, it was clear he genuinely believed in what he was saying. There was something more to him, a depth she hadn't been willing to acknowledge. Maybe he was more than just a popular guy with a great smile. As the day unfolded, she found herself slowly swept up in the energy surrounding the event despite herself. Activities unfolded, games were played, and students laughed loudly. Gradually, even Mia couldn't resist joining in. She registered for a booth, helping to promote a bake sale. As flower dust danced around her, she glanced over to find Ethan chatting with a group of students. The glint in his eyes was different, softer somehow. He wasn't just encouraging people to participate, he was truly engaging. Mia felt a small pull in her heart. She caught herself wishing she could admire him fully, but kept her resentment close, a shield keeping her from surrendering. As the event came to an end, she could see the results of their collective effort. Together, they had raised a remarkable amount for local charities. Students high-fived, laughter echoed across the gym, and for the first time since his election, Mia found her own face breaking into a smile. With each passing day, Ethan's presidency slowly began to change her heart. She dared to sit in on the student council meetings, and to her disbelief, she saw a new side of him. He listened, genuinely listened to every student's voice in the room, giving everyone an opportunity to share their ideas. One afternoon, the council was planning an assembly to address mental health awareness, and Mia found herself speaking up. We could include personal stories, even have a Q&A session at the end, she suggested. Ethan nodded, his eyes brightening. He turned to the rest of the team, and in that moment she felt seen. At once, her defense mechanisms began to crumble. Days turned into weeks, and with every shared idea in the meetings, they found themselves growing closer. The wall that had separated them slowly shattered with every discussion, every brainstorming session. One night late after a meeting, Mia found herself walking out of the school, seeking solace under the stars. Ethan fell into step beside her. "Hey," he said, his tone casual, "you really contributed today." She smiled, the warmth blooming through her. "Thanks." He glanced sideways, catching her gaze. "You know, I didn't expect to connect with anyone like this when I ran for president. I thought it would just be about popularity." There was a sincerity in his voice that tugged at something inside her. "Yeah, it's different than I thought it would be," Mia admitted, feeling her resentment shift like sand underfoot. That connection deepened the next week in the midst of organizing the mental health assembly. They spent hours in the library, a world of books surrounding them, yet it was as if they had built their own sanctuary. The atmosphere felt charged with purpose. It was during a quiet moment between them, as they read through submissions from fellow students, that Mia finally said what had been in her heart. "You know, I used to think you were just another jock who only cared about himself, but you've really shown me a different side of you." His smile lit up the room. "And I admire how you gave me a chance." As the day of the assembly approached, their teamwork culminated in an event that resonated throughout the school. Misty eyes touched hearts as students shared their stories, laughter and tears mixing in a beautiful catharsis. The applause echoed long after the presentations ended, a wave of understanding washing over everyone present. That night, with their efforts behind them, Mia walked home under the stars, her soul lighter than it had been in ages. The chains of her initial judgments had broken, replaced by genuine understanding and respect for Ethan. She could finally see the change they had created together. Weeks turned into months, marking the end of the school year, but the impact remained. Ethan had not just changed as a leader, he had reached into the depths of Mia's heart, revealing a capacity to connect that she never knew existed. And then one afternoon, as they sat together on the bleachers watching the sunset, a comfortable silence stretched between them. "You know," Ethan began, a hint of shyness tinting his voice, "I'm really grateful you were there to challenge me." Mia's heart flipped. "Me? Challenge you?" Their laughter filled the air, a sound woven together by newfound friendship. "I'm so glad we got to know each other," he said, turning serious. "It's funny," Mia remarked, a smile playing on her lips. Ethan nodded, the weight of their journey settling comfortably between them, a bond forged through every misunderstanding, every barrier that had fallen away. As graduation loomed, they stood side by side, no longer defined by popularity or charm, but by the strength of their connection, one that transcended the initial impressions that had once held them apart. Mia had learned that it wasn't the name or the title that mattered, it was who they chose to be beyond the surface. In Ethan, she discovered not just a president, but a true friend, and that was a victory worth celebrating. Mia Reynolds stood in the crowded gym, the energy palpable as students buzzed with excitement around her. The moment had finally come, the announcement of the new student council president. She felt a mixture of curiosity and dread when the principal's voice crackled through the microphone. "And the new president is..." The room exploded with cheers, but to Mia it felt like the walls were closing in. Her heart sank, her stomach twisted. "Ah," she muttered, rolling her eyes with such force that it caught the attention of her friends. They exchanged knowing glances, laughter bubbling in their throats. To them, it was just Mia being Mia, but this time, the irritation ran deeper. Ethan Carter was the guy who seemed to glide effortlessly through high school, charming everyone he encountered. Tall, handsome, and with a smile that could light up a room, he had the school wrapped around his finger. But to Mia, he was just a classic show-off, and she couldn't stand the thought of him leading their student body. They say that action speaks louder than words, but for Mia, Ethan's glib speeches had always felt like empty promises. Just last week, he'd given a speech about school spirit during the pep. She had sat there, arms crossed, gnashing her teeth as he flashed that perfect smile. He had proclaimed, and the crowd erupted. "I mean, please," Mia had grumbled to her friend Sarah afterward. Days turned to weeks, and Mia's disdain for Ethan only grew as he settled into his new role. Posters promoting school events with his beaming face plastered everywhere became a daily reminder of his presence. "Vote for Ethan," they declared, and she couldn't help but cringe every time she walked by. But beneath her layers of annoyance, a strange curiosity began to unfold. Despite her efforts to ignore him, Ethan was really trying to make a change. His first initiative was a charity event aimed at raising funds for the local food bank. With every email she received and every announcement made, Ethan challenged the students to come together. He would say, his enthusiasm infectious. Mia caught herself glancing at the brightly colored flyers, but she quickly shook her head. "I can't believe he's trying to use this to boost his popularity," she thought. Then one crisp Friday morning, the student council announced a meeting to plan the charity event. The gym was buzzing and Mia dragged her feet as she headed toward the gathering. She intended to confront Ethan during the meeting. If he was going to run things, he needed to know not everyone was impressed by him. As she entered the gymnasium, the air was thick with energy. Students were buzzing around, a mix of excitement and nerves permeating those present. Ethan stood at the front, speaking animatedly, his blue eyes lighting up with every word he shared. "Everyone, thank you for coming. This is our chance to show what Monroe can do." Mia felt her jaw clench. They were falling for it again, hanging on his every word like he was some kind of prophet. She cleared her throat, trying to focus her thoughts as the meeting progressed. The ideas flowed: bake sales, talent shows, and car washes, but Mia held her breath, waiting for her moment. Finally, she raised her hand. Ethan turned to her, eyebrows lifted, looking genuinely curious. "Look," she said, her heart racing. "I think we need a solid plan, not just a list of fun activities." There was a brief silence as everyone turned to look at her, surprised she had finally spoken up. Ethan nodded, still wearing that welcoming smile, but Mia could see a flicker of vulnerability behind it. "You're right." The rest of the meeting became a back-and-forth barrage of ideas, but what struck Mia most was how Ethan handled the flow of conversation. He listened, genuinely listening, nodding along as students shared their thoughts. With each exchange, she began to realize maybe he wasn't the cardboard cutout she had painted him to be. Weeks passed, and the charity event day drew closer. Mia found herself diving deeper into the planning process. To her surprise, she began to enjoy coordinating with Ethan. They became an unlikely duo, complementing each other as they turned ideas into reality. She felt herself softening in his presence, and laughter began to flow more freely. Their teamwork reached new heights when they finally launched the charity campaign. They opened the event with a huge rally, captivating the student body, and Mia felt the exhilaration in the air as students signed up to help. The excitement was contagious, and slowly her previous judgments began to fade like distant echoes. As the charity event day arrived, Mia stood in front of the gym, her heart pounding. The space was alive with student smiles, laughter, and an energy she hadn't anticipated. It struck her as they all gathered, the enthusiasm was not just because of Ethan. They were excited to be a part of something bigger, and Mia was right here with them. Ethan caught her eye as he dashed through the crowd. She watched as he boisterously rallied students, his infectious energy drawing them in. For the first time, she was proud to see the impact of their hard work. He shouted, and the crowd cheered back. Mia felt something shift within her. The resentment that had clouded her perception began to dissipate as she recognized the transformation happening all around. Their collective efforts were causing a ripple effect, pulling students together, fostering an atmosphere of unity. A classmate said, patting Ethan on the back while beaming with admiration. Mia couldn't help but feel a pang of warmth, realizing Ethan was becoming a true leader. As the day progressed, the success of the event was undeniable. They had raised more money than anyone could have anticipated, and the feeling of accomplishment hung in the air like sweet perfume. As the final moments of the event played out, Ethan turned to Mia, eyes gleaming with pride. He exclaimed, and she couldn't help but smile back, her heart swelling. But just as she was about to respond, a group of students rushed over, applauding Ethan. The admiration was palpable, and Mia felt that old irritation bubbling up again. There he goes again, she thought, frustration overshadowing her joy. But then something remarkable happened. With the crowd cheering him on, Ethan glanced at Mia. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said simply, sincerity shining in his eyes. It disarmed her, pushing aside the walls she had built. Suddenly, Mia found herself laughing, a light, genuine sound. "No, seriously," she managed between giggles. "What are you going to do now, Mr. President?" Ethan grinned, maybe. For the first time, she felt their connection shifting in a way she hadn't expected. The camaraderie they developed began to blossom into something deeper. While they continued their work, laughter became a bridge that brought them closer together. As days turned into weeks, an undeniable friendship began to crystallize. They found themselves working late nights together, sharing secrets, and opening up in ways they never imagined possible. Their conversations stretched into the early hours of the morning, dreams spilling out like stars filling the night sky. But just when Mia thought she had figured Ethan out, turmoil erupted at the school. A rumor began to circulate that the student council was mismanaging funds, casting doubt on their success and exposing them to scrutiny. The tension rose as accusations swirled, students whispered in corners, and the school's atmosphere felt heavy with distrust. Mia watched as Ethan's confidence wavered under the pressure. He found himself cornered in meetings, students questioning him more intensely. Someone shouted one afternoon. Mia's heart ached for him, recalling how hard he had worked to generate all this goodwill. Ethan remained steadfast but clearly shaken. "I promise we're doing everything ethically and transparently. I can assure you," he began, but the murmurs quickly drowned him out. It was overwhelming, and Mia could see the weight pressing down on his shoulders. In her heart, she knew she had to act. She stepped up to the microphone during the next assembly, her voice steady even as a knot twisted in her stomach. "I believe in what Ethan is doing," she asserted, looking at the crowd. The room fell silent, eyes darting to both Ethan and Mia. They could feel the heaviness of judgment in the air. It's easy to point fingers, she continued, but think about the impact we've made. We've brought our community closer together. Ethan flashed her a grateful smile that felt like a lifeline. In that moment, the tide began to turn. The crowd erupted into applause, and moment by moment, she could see Ethan slowly regain his footing. With her support, they formed a united front against the doubt. As they stood together in the aftermath, something vital had changed. They weren't just two people trying to make their school better anymore. They were a team. They had navigated the storm together, and their bond had become unbreakable. After the chaos settled and the truth about the funds was revealed as a misunderstanding, the students rallied around their leaders, and Ethan's presidency surged back with renewed vigor. They celebrated with a new event, an open forum where students could voice their thoughts without judgment, fostering transparency and rebuilding trust. During the preparations for the forum, Mia found herself reflecting on how far they had come. The girl who had once rolled her eyes at Ethan's name now stood beside him, feeling pride in what they had accomplished together. On that day, as students poured into the forum, their excited chatter filled the air. Mia stood in the back, watching Ethan take the stage. He looked confident, comfortable in his skin. Mia could see the change in him. The charm was still there, but it was backed by substance. He was no longer the boy who captured attention. He was a leader willing to listen, to grow, and to learn. As the forum progressed, Ethan engaged with students, discussing concerns and opening dialogue. Mia started to see something that had once turned her away from him: humility. She realized that his initial bravado masked a profound desire to make a difference. By the time the forum wrapped, the atmosphere was electric. People were buzzing with ideas, and that sense of community Mia had once witnessed became a tangible force. She felt the sense of pride well up deeply as Ethan stepped off the stage and walked toward her, his expression a blend of exhilaration and gratitude. He said, enthusiasm spilling out of him. Mia grinned back, the warmth creeping into her cheeks. Weeks passed, and as graduation drew near, Mia found herself reflecting on how much had changed. The girl who once loathed Ethan had forged a connection that taught her about humility, teamwork, and growth. Their friendship had blossomed. They were no longer defined by hesitation or judgment. Instead, they were two young leaders who had learned from each other, breaking the shallow barriers of stereotypes. Finally, the day of graduation arrived, and the gym buzzed with excitement as families filled the seats. The hall was adorned with decorations, filled with the essence of accomplishment and hope. But as Mia looked around, she felt a newfound appreciation for her senior year and everything that had led up to this moment. As the students stood to receive their diplomas, Ethan gave a speech filled with gratitude and aspiration. We've shown ourselves what we can achieve when we come together, he concluded, standing proud in his cap and gown. Mia joined the applause, tears pricking her eyes. The boy whose name had once inspired scorn had transcended into a powerful symbol of unity. As she gazed at him, she felt a swell of pride that bubbled up from within. In the end, as they tossed their caps into the air, it was more than just a graduation. It was a celebration of the journey they had undertaken. The moments of irritation, connection, and understanding had merged into a friendship that would last beyond these walls. Mia smiled, thinking back to how perspective can shift and how sometimes the person you least expect can change your life in the most incredible ways. And as they walked out into a new world together, she knew deep down that her life would never be the same again. The moment Mia Reynolds' eyes landed on the brightly colored poster plastered across the school bulletin board, she felt her heart sink. It read in bold letters, complete with a cheesy photo of him flashing that annoyingly charming smile. Everything about it screamed popular kid, and Mia felt the familiar irritation bubble up inside her. Ethan Carter, she muttered under her breath, rolling her eyes dramatically. It was a gesture that had become second nature to her. Just last week, he had sauntered through the cafeteria, laughter echoing as a flock of admirers trailed behind him. They hung on his every word as if he had just dropped pearls of wisdom. To Mia, he was nothing more than a teenage jock, poised on a pedestal made of ego and charisma. Another year, another popularity contest, she grumbled to her friend Sarah, who stood beside her, scanning the board with a mixture of excitement and disdain. "Come on, Mia, he's not that bad," Sarah replied, her eyes darting back to Ethan's poster. Mia shot back, "He's only in it for the attention, watch." But there was a gnawing feeling at the back of her mind. Maybe, just maybe, she was being unfair. They hadn't really interacted beyond a couple of polite smiles in the hallway. Maybe he was more than what she had assumed. But no, every logical thought faded when he was mentioned. Consumed by the bitterness of not fitting into the crowd, he effortlessly dominated. As the weeks rolled on toward election day, Mia found herself dodging conversations that centered around Ethan. Classmates discussed his plans for the upcoming year while she sat silently, pretending to focus on her homework. The atmosphere felt electric, charged with anticipation, but all Mia could feel was a resistance growing inside her, refusing to budge. On the day of the debate, the air hung thick with tension. Students filled the auditorium, buzzing with excitement as they prepared to witness the showdown between Ethan and Helen, Mia's close friend. Helen, with her steadfast kindness and genuine heart, had crafted a campaign focused on unity and progress. Mia felt a flicker of hope. If anyone could challenge Ethan's popularity, it was Helen. When it was Ethan's turn to speak, Mia leaned forward, ready to catch every verbatim flaw in his rhetoric. He strode confidently to the microphone, his presence magnetic. "Hey everyone, I'm Ethan," he began, and the crowd's cheer drowned out his next words. The moment he started speaking about how he wanted to improve school spirit and help students feel included, Mia's brow furrowed. She thought, shaking her head in disbelief. Ethan passionately discussed plans for new clubs and school events, but Mia felt every promise hang in the air like empty balloons. She couldn't help but zone out, her eyes drifting to the ticking clock on the wall. They felt like hours weighed down by her irritation. Helen's turn came, and she stepped into the light, her voice steady and sincere. She highlighted issues that mattered: the need for better mental health resources, inclusivity for all students, and tangible steps toward creating a supportive environment. Mia's heart swelled with pride. This was the real deal, a candidate who put her heart on the line rather than hurling flashy slogans into the crowd. The debate ended, leaving Mia in a confusing whirlpool of emotions. She felt empowered by Helen's words, but still frustrated by Ethan's overwhelming presence. She wondered. It was a question that haunted her. Election day arrived, the school buzzing with electricity. Mia could barely concentrate as the final votes were cast. Standing outside the gym, the anticipation was suffocating. As the students filed in, she caught sight of Ethan, surrounded by a gaggle of friends and supporters, laughter erupting from their group as if he were king of the castle. The bubble of envy and irritation burst open again. The gym fell silent as the principal approached the microphone, holding the slip of paper that would determine the future leader of the student body. Mia's heart pounded in her chest as she leaned closer. "And the new president of Monroe High is..." Cheers erupted like a thunderstorm, drowning out any thoughts left rattling in Mia's head. She stepped back, her chest tightening. Euphoria swept through Ethan and his supporters, while Mia stood frozen amidst the throng of celebration, feeling the chill of betrayal slice through her. As days turned into weeks, the euphoria of Ethan's victory began to morph into something surprising. Mia had expected arrogance to reign, but instead, Ethan rolled up his sleeves and started working. The first assembly he led was informative, aiming to ease the lingering tensions and foster a sense of community. He was charming as always, but this felt different. Ethan began, standing before his peers. "I know a lot of you are worried about what I'll do as president. Let's make this a team effort." To Mia's shock, he began to hire students for various committees and initiatives, seeking out lesser-known voices in the crowd. "We need everyone's input," he said, and the more he spoke, the more she found herself reevaluating her assumptions about him. Could he really be trying to make a difference? Mia felt a strange pull to attend the next student council meeting. As she sat at the back of the room, watching Ethan facilitate discussions, she felt the walls she had built around herself start to crumble. His leadership style was inclusive. He encouraged participation and validated every idea. It was the first time she saw him truly in action, and it caught her off guard. "Let's not forget about the upcoming charity event," he said, a glimmer of excitement in his voice. "I think we should raise awareness for mental health." Mia leaned forward, suddenly invested. She thought, her brain buzzing with surprise. The more she watched, the more she found herself nodding at his words. There was something real behind the facade, something that felt genuine. The charity event kicked into full gear, and Mia found herself surrounded by the planning committee, which unexpectedly included Ethan. As the weeks pressed on, the camaraderie they developed slowly began to shift her perspective. She found herself smiling more, sharing ideas and laughing at his jokes. "Okay, folks, this event can't just be about fundraising. We need to create a connection," Ethan shared one day, eyes glinting with enthusiasm. Mia was surprised by how often he would seek her opinion. "What do you think, Mia? You have good ideas," he said, and every time her thoughts were recognized, she felt a rush of warmth. The night of the charity event arrived, the gym transformed into a tapestry of colors and lights. Mia had never seen a crowd so alive, a mixture of excitement and anticipation filling the air. As Ethan took the stage, she felt those old grudges stirring again. Would it just be the same song and dance, or would she finally witness something real? He began, his voice rolling over the crowd, igniting enthusiasm in every corner. "Tonight is about community and connection." Mia stood back, shifting on her feet, torn between skepticism and admiration. As heartfelt stories filled the room, she watched Ethan embrace each brave soul who stepped up to share their experience. Mia felt tears prick her eyes, overwhelmed by the honesty unfolding before her. It happened in that moment. It struck her that Ethan wasn't just putting on a show, he was creating a space for vulnerability. Watching him lead so thoughtfully, she practically gasped. "He really is trying to make a difference," she thought, and a warmth flooded through her. After the event wrapped up and the applause died down, Mia found herself stepping toward Ethan, nervously brushing aside her previous judgments. "You did great," she said, her voice laced with sincerity. "Thanks, Mia," he smiled, genuine gratitude shining through his eyes. In that brief exchange, something shifted inside her, a light bulb flickering to life. Her perceptions began to unravel, and she found herself paving a road toward understanding. In the days that followed, this newfound connection blossomed between them. They became friends, sharing ideas and laughter, venturing into uncharted territory. As weeks rolled by, Ethan's presidency continued to inspire students, the atmosphere shifting to reflect compassion and purpose. Still, a gnawing pang of insecurity lingered in her heart. She thought as she witnessed his evolving leadership. The dread of embarrassment loomed heavy as she considered how far her thoughts had strayed from reality. An unexpected storm hit the school, penetrating the harmony they had worked so hard to establish. Rumors began swirling, claiming that the student council was mismanaging funds. Mia watched as doubts clouded the once vibrant atmosphere, whispers creeping through lockers and hallways. "Can you believe him?" A student sneered in passing. It felt like electric tension, the type that could ignite. The student body gathered for an emergency assembly, and Mia felt her heart race, afraid of what was to come. Ethan stood at the front, and the doubt in his eyes was palpable as students confronted him head-on. Someone shouted. Mia squirmed as Ethan struggled to maintain composure, explaining that everything was being overseen by faculty and that the council was committed to transparency. But the doubting voices only grew louder. Stepping up wasn't just a choice for Mia, it became an instinct. She shouted, feeling her heartbeat pulse in her ears. "Ethan has worked hard to bring us together." The tension crackled through the air as the students turned their focus toward Mia. She continued, her voice rising. Surprisingly, her words hit home. One by one, nods of agreement spread through the assembly, the incredulity softening as Ethan's pleas for fairness began to resonate. Slowly but surely, the atmosphere shifted back toward hope. With the unity they forged returning, students rallied to turn the tides in support of their leadership. Reassurance blossomed, words of encouragement took root, and the doubters began to filter out. Together, they could combat any storm. The scandal fizzled as trust was restored, and the change they'd forged together continued to gain momentum. Mia and Ethan emerged from the storm hand in hand, their bond strengthened, refreshed by the experience. They were not just figures of influence anymore, they were a team. As graduation approached, the air grew thick with nostalgia. They gathered one last time for senior portraits, standing side by side, a realization shimmering beneath the surface. They had grown so much together, learning from each other's journeys, pushing beyond layers of skepticism into a realm of friendship. Day of graduation, as they gathered with their classmates in the packed auditorium, the weight of anticipation hung heavy. Each moment felt monumental. As Ethan took the stage one last time, he exuded confidence, a leader transformed. "Graduation isn't just about celebrating our accomplishments," he said, filled with passion. "It's about recognizing our connections. We lifted each other, and that's what matters." The audience erupted into applause, and Mia felt a thrill of pride sweep through her. She recognized that her journey with Ethan had shifted everything within her, pushing her to reflect on the complexity of understanding and acceptance. As they tossed their caps into the air, a mixture of laughter and tears flooded the stage. In that moment, Mia realized that her story with Ethan wasn't just about rolling her eyes and holding grudges. It was about learning, growing, and finding companionship in unexpected places. And as she walked out into a bright new world, she carried with her the profound truth that everyone has the potential to surprise you, and sometimes the people you least expect can lead you toward the most incredible journey. The moment Mia Reynolds heard the name Ethan Carter called over the loudspeaker, her heart sank. "And the board has voted." The gymnasium erupted into applause, but Mia felt as if the air had been sucked from the room. She stood frozen, the sounds of celebration swirling around her like a storm. She muttered under her breath, rolling her eyes so hard she thought they might get stuck. The cheerleading squad erupted into shrieks, and the football team jumped up, high-fiving Ethan, who was grinning from ear to ear. Just moments before, they had all been gathered for the final voting results, excitement electrifying the air. But to Mia, this wasn't just a matter of being elected president, it was a personal affront. Ethan was the quintessential golden boy, tall, charming, and effortlessly charismatic. He had everything going for him, while Mia often felt like just another face in the crowd. She spat to her friend Jenna. "Oh, come on, Mia," Jenna replied, rolling her eyes back at her. "Good for the school, really," Mia snapped, but even as she spoke, a little voice in her head questioned her certainty. Maybe, just maybe, she was being too harsh. Still, the anger bubbled just beneath her skin. This wasn't just about school politics, it felt personal. Mia remembered how Ethan had swaggered through the halls, always surrounded by a crowd, effortlessly charming everyone he met. Why couldn't he just fade into the background like everyone else? Why did he have to take the spotlight? As the days passed, the reality of Ethan's presidency settled in. Posters with his face plastered across the halls seemed to multiply overnight. Each one felt like a reminder that he was now in charge, and Mia's resentment only grew. "Vote for Ethan," proclaimed, and she couldn't help but scoff. Whenever his name came up in conversations, Mia would find ways to deflect. "He's all looks and no substance," she would say dismissively. I mean, did you hear his campaign speech? But the truth was, nothing felt like a joke when the board had voted him in, and the discontent stirred in Mia had a darker flavor. It was jealousy mixed with a sense of powerlessness. She pulled away from her friends, unable to shake the bitterness that clung to her like a shadow. One day, school was buzzing with talk of the first big event planned under Ethan's leadership, a charity fundraiser for a local community center. Mia watched from a distance, eyeing the planning meetings filled with students excitedly brainstorming ideas. Ethan at the head of the table animatedly discussing what they could do, his smile brighter than the fluorescent lights above. Look at him trying to be all caring, she muttered to herself, but the knot in her stomach tightened. Deep down, she feared he would actually pull it off. Weeks turned into a flurry of activity, and Mia found it harder to ignore Ethan's relentless enthusiasm. He spent hours rallying the students, getting them to join the cause and support the event. Posters adorned the halls, the atmosphere was electric, and Mia's friends were swept up in the current of Ethan's charm. Come on, Mia, Jenna urged. Mia shot back, crossing her arms. But curiosity nagged at her, and against her better judgment, she decided to attend one meeting just to see what all the fuss was about. Walking into the gym for the meeting felt intimidating. Students buzzed with excitement, and Ethan stood at the front, radiating energy as he spoke. He cried, his voice ringing clear. Mia crossed her arms, trying to maintain her skepticism as he continued to draw more and more of her classmates into the conversation. Yet something about his passion struck a chord, and she felt her defenses cracking. Everyone can contribute equally, he said, inviting ideas and suggestions. The sincerity in his voice was almost shocking. As the meeting progressed, Mia found herself leaning forward, intrigued despite herself. When someone suggested a college bake sale, Ethan ran with the idea, conjuring a menu that made everyone laugh and cheer. Someone else chimed in. Gazing at Ethan, she saw how he truly listened, pondering every suggestion. She had never seen this side of him before. Days passed, and Mia's feelings about Ethan began to shift. She still resisted the urge to like him, but she couldn't deny that he was bringing the school together in a way she hadn't seen before. The charity event began to feel real, a collective vision that everyone, including her, was participating in. The night of the charity event arrived, and the gym was transformed into a bright mosaic of celebration. Lights twinkled down from above, each one like a little star in their universe of high school life. As students streamed in, Mia could feel the excitement crackling through the air like electricity. When Ethan took the stage, the cheers erupted once more. Thank you all for coming. His voice soared, and for the first time, Mia felt a flicker of pride. The performers took the stage first, showing off talents that made everyone cheer even louder. Mia found herself laughing, forgetting her grievances as the night wore on. It felt so good to be part of something bigger, to see their school come together to help others. As the bake sale took off, Mia found herself working alongside Ethan, chatting and sharing stories. They were no longer just the popular guy and the girl who rolled her eyes. They were allies working toward a common goal. She couldn't help but notice how much more genuine he seemed up close. She asked, mixing batter and frosting alongside him. Ethan chuckled, tapping the bowl lightly. I guess I just really care about helping people. For the first time, Mia let herself truly see him. Maybe he wasn't just a charming face. Maybe he was a person who genuinely wanted to make a difference. It hit her like a shockwave, rattling everything she thought she knew about him. As the fundraiser began to pull in donations beyond their expectations, a feeling of victory washed over them. The realization that they had done this together filled Mia with a sense of camaraderie she had never anticipated. But just when it felt like everything was falling perfectly into place, disaster struck. A rumor began circulating that Ethan was pocketing funds from the fundraiser. Mia felt the icy grip of doubt inkling back into her heart. This couldn't be happening. A hushed whisper swept through the school. Did you hear? Each time the words hit her ears, it felt like a stab to her heart. It was unfathomable that someone so driven could be accused of something so vile. Tension grew as more and more students began questioning Ethan's integrity. They gathered for an assembly, confusion and mistrust hanging heavy in the air. Mia felt an urgent need to defend Ethan, but was terrified by how fragile their newfound friendship might be. He stepped up to the front, standing before the skeptical crowd, visibly shaken. The cool confidence he usually portrayed slipped slightly. I promise you, everything we raised is going to the community center. I wouldn't do something like that, he pleaded, vulnerability breaking through his usually composed demeanor. But the crowd murmured uneasily, doubt filling their faces. That's when Mia took a deep breath and stepped forward. She couldn't simply watch as a good person was torn apart. She shouted, her voice ringing clear, I know Ethan. He's worked tirelessly to pull this fundraiser together, and we all know he cares about this school. Her heart raced. The crowd turned to her, surprise evident in their expressions. We've all been part of something incredible here. Losing faith in each other now would be a huge mistake. None of us would benefit from tearing down our leaders. The murmurs began to fade, replaced by a slow-building wave of agreement. One by one, students stepped forward, sharing their stories about how Ethan had reached out to them, how he had rallied support in times of need. Ethan's eyes widened, and a grateful smile broke across his face. As students began to unite, confidence surged back into him. Mia felt the energy shift, fueled by the collective strength of their voices rising together. In that moment of solidarity, it was clear they were not just students in a high school, they were a community bound by shared experiences, and they were willing to fight for each other. The rumors died down and trust was restored. In the aftermath, Mia and Ethan found themselves bonding even closer. They spent long nights planning a new assembly focused on transparency, promising their peers that the student council would always have their best interests at heart. Finally, the day of the assembly arrived. As Ethan stood on stage again, it felt different this time. He spoke from his heart, addressing the doubts head-on. "I want to truly connect with all of you," he said, voice strong and steady. "We're all in this together." The applause that erupted afterward shook the very foundations of the gym. Mia felt a swell of pride as she joined in, enchanted by the spirit of community they had forged. Through that wild journey of ups and downs, they had become not only better leaders but better friends. The layers of judgment had peeled away, revealing genuine respect beneath. As graduation approached, anxiety settled into Mia's stomach. It felt surreal that they were nearing the end of their high school journey, and all the moments they had shared loomed large in her heart. On the day of graduation, the gym buzzed with excitement, students hanging on each other's words, years of memories flooding back. When Ethan took the stage to deliver his speech, Mia could see the weight of responsibility residing comfortably on his shoulders. "Graduation isn't just about moving forward," he began, his voice filling the room. "It's about acknowledging the bonds we've formed and how our journeys have intertwined." With each word, Mia felt the emotions course through her. This was no longer about whether or not she liked Ethan's name. It was about the connection they had grown into a powerful partnership rooted in respect, understanding, and trust. As the final moments ticked down in those last seconds of high school life, they joined the crowd in tossing their caps up into the air, a colorful explosion signaling their transition into a new realm. Amidst the cheers and laughter, Mia realized her journey had begun not by rolling her eyes at someone, but by learning to look deeper. It taught her not just about Ethan, but about herself, about the beauty in collaboration, about building community, and about being open to unexpected friendships. She stepped onto the threshold of the next chapter. She carried the lessons learned in her heart. The people who underestimate you often have the power to surprise you the most, and sometimes the name that inspires an eye roll might lead you to the most incredible journey of your life. The moment Mia Reynolds heard the name Ethan Carter announced over the loudspeaker, the air in the auditorium shifted. "And the new president of Monroe High is..." Cheers erupted like fireworks, drowning out Mia's racing thoughts. She felt her stomach drop, disbelief taking root. "I can't believe this," she whispered, rolling her eyes so hard it felt almost painful. Around her, students jumped to their feet, clapping and cheering while a sea of relentless enthusiasm washed over the room. Mia remained seated, a vortex of confusion and irritation swirling in her chest. Ethan wasn't just another student, he was the asterisk student. Tall, athletic, and effortlessly charming, he moved through the halls like a celebrity, never without a crowd of admirers. To Mia, this was reality turning into a frustrating fairy tale, and she wanted no part of it. "Seriously," she muttered, glancing at her best friend Sarah, who was practically bouncing in her seat. Sarah exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "He's actually pretty great." "Great, more like great at pleasing the crowd," Mia snapped back. "He's just another pretty face with pretty words." The principal's voice cut through Mia's thoughts as she tried to quell the rising tide of frustration. The applause thundered around her, but Mia was lost in her own thoughts, resisting the tide of admiration. Her heart beat faster. How could he take the spotlight again? As the days rolled on, Ethan's victory loomed as a constant reminder of everything Mia resented. Posters showcasing his dazzling smile with slogans like "Vote for Ethan" plastered the walls. Each one felt like a jab, rekindling her irritation each time she passed by. Every conversation turned into a discussion about Ethan's proposals, each one filled with overwhelming praise. Classmates squealed, their excitement palpable. Mia bit her lip, attempting to drown out the chatter. "He's going to make Asterisk himself great," she thought bitterly. Doubts began creeping into her mind. Had she misjudged him? She wasn't about to be fooled. When the day of the charity event was announced, excitement echoed down the hallways. Ethan's voice rang out in the cafeteria as he spoke passionately about the upcoming fundraiser. Yet to Mia, it felt like an opportunity to further his popularity. "You've got to be kidding," she whispered to Jenna, shaking her head as she crossed her arms. "It's all smoke and mirrors." Still, curiosity gnawed at her. Perhaps her judgment was too quick. She remembered their only brief interactions, when he had smiled at her in the hallway or politely commented on her project. Was there more than what she had seen? Against her better judgment, Mia found herself attending the first planning meeting for the event. The gym buzzed with excitement, colorful decorations already beginning to take shape as students moved about, brainstorming ideas. Ethan stood at the front, animated and engaging, beckoning everyone to join in. "Let's make this a night to remember. Together we can raise money and increase awareness for our local shelter," he declared, enthusiasm radiating from him. Mia listened, arms crossed, a wall of skepticism rising between her and the events unfolding before her. Really, she wondered, watching the crowd hang on to his every word like a lifeline. With every suggestion he embraced, the warmth in her chest grew. Slowly, she began to lower her guard. The new energy in the room was palpable, a sense of unity forming around this charismatic leader. As the meeting progressed, the laughter bubbled up and ideas flowed freely. Each moment chipped away at the wall she had built around her heart. Then called out, beaming as students cheered. The momentum grew, and even Mia found herself raising her hand, a reluctant spark of excitement flickering in her chest. Days turned into a flurry of activity leading up to the event, with posters decorating the halls and students signing up to help. To Mia's surprise, she found herself enjoying the process. She began to laugh and share ideas, letting a bit of that energy weave its way into her thoughts, yet doubts still lingered in the back of her mind. Then came the night of the charity event. The gym shimmered under bright lights, transformed into a vibrant marketplace. Students streamed in, spirits high as laughter and chatter filled the air. Standing beside Ethan, who was bustling around overseeing the arrangements, Mia felt a strange mix of exhilaration and anxiety. Once he took the stage, the room fell silent. "Thank you for being here. Tonight is about more than just fun." The crowd erupted into cheers. Mia felt something shift inside her. The person she had dismissed and rolled her eyes at had become a beacon of light, a person intent on helping others. As the night unfolded, she watched him connect with everyone around him, their shared enthusiasm contagious. "Your hard work is making a difference," Ethan shouted, and applause filled the room. For the first time, Mia could see why people were drawn to him. As the event came to a close, Mia joined in the raucous laughter and celebratory atmosphere. They had raised an impressive amount of money, and a sense of pride washed over her. Maybe this was what it felt like to work alongside someone who wanted to make the world a better place. Yet just as the celebration reached its peak, a rumor began to spread through the hallways like wildfire, igniting panic among staff and students alike. Whispers of mismanaged funds swirled around the school, targeting Ethan directly. Mia felt a cold knot of dread form in her stomach. "This can't be happening," she thought as she joined a crowd gathered in the hall, uncertainty casting dark shadows over their faces. When the emergency assembly was called, she can still feel the tension coursing through the room as students filled the seats, anxiety etched across their faces. Ethan stood at the front, his usually bright demeanor dimmed by the weight of the accusations. "I want to assure you all that we've done everything above board," Ethan stated, his voice wavering slightly but his passion clear. But as murmurs spread through the crowd, doubts began to resurface, amplified by a small group of skeptics. The discontent festered, and Mia felt the urge to stand up for him clawing at her insides. Before she knew it, she was stepping forward, gripping the edge of the podium for support. She shouted, her heart racing, "I know Ethan, he's worked tirelessly for us." The crowd fell quiet, all eyes now focused on her. With a deep breath, she continued, "This isn't just about him, it's about the community we've built together." Mia looked at Ethan, who stood wide-eyed, disbelief shifting into hope as a flicker of camaraderie ignited within the room. Students began to nod, a ripple of understanding spreading through the crowd. One by one, others chimed in, sharing their experiences and how Ethan's initiatives had already touched their lives. The atmosphere began to shift as students transformed from skeptics into allies, united in a communal effort to support their student body president. Mia felt energy pulsing in the air, solidarity anchoring every voice. With renewed strength, Ethan stood tall again, his resolve shining through. "We're here for each other. Let's keep our faith alive in this community we've built together," he said, his voice steady. The assembly shifted from doubt to hope as the crowd came together, raising their voices in support. When the fire of unity flared, so did the truth. As the rumors faded, clarity emerged, and Ethan was embraced as a leader once more. In the days that followed, their bond deepened. Mia saw a side of Ethan that surprised her. He was not only a student president, but also a friend willing to listen and adapt. They collaborated on new initiatives, brainstorming ways to strengthen their community even more. Then the biggest test of their friendship came right before the end of the school year. Graduation loomed just a few weeks away, and the momentum they'd created together reached a fever pitch. Ethan was scheduled to give the graduation speech, a chance to close the chapter on this unforgettable journey. But as the final days approached, Mia sensed something was off. She noticed that Ethan was quieter than usual, trouble weighing heavily on his shoulders. She asked one afternoon as they worked together to finalize the graduation details. He hesitated, his blue eyes clouding with uncertainty. "Honestly, I just feel so much pressure. I want to say the right thing to everyone," and Mia felt her heart twist. "Ethan, look at everything we've accomplished together. You've brought people together in ways I never thought possible. Just speak from the heart." The night of graduation arrived, and the gym buzzed with excitement under a kaleidoscope of colors. Mia's heart raced as she stepped into the familiar space, but this time everything felt different. When Ethan stood up to deliver his speech, there was a gravity to him that commanded attention. "Thank you everyone for all the support you've shown me," he began, his voice steady with purpose. Mia watched, mesmerized as the energy in the room shifted. Graduation isn't just an end, it's the beginning of our next adventure, he continued, his conviction radiating. Someone shouted from the crowd, igniting waves of applause that rippled through the gym. Ethan's gaze searched the audience, a spark illuminating his features as he addressed them. We learn not to define ourselves by our titles, but to embrace the connections we've formed, and that's what matters most. Mia felt tears prick her eyes. This was the boy she had underestimated. He had grown to understand the importance of true leadership, and it filled her with pride. As graduation caps flew into the air, reflecting the light like stars, the realization washed over her. The journey she had taken alongside Ethan had transformed her in ways she had never anticipated. The moments of irritation and anger were now replaced with admiration and friendship. They had built something incredible together. The bonds formed and lessons learned had left a lasting impression on both of their lives. Walking out into the bright future ahead, Mia carried with her the knowledge that sometimes what you see on the surface only scratches the surface of deeper truths. Ethan Carter had once been just a name she shrugged at, but had become a friend she cherished. In that moment, with her cap flying high and that bittersweet ache of nostalgia filling her heart, she knew she was stepping into a new chapter, one filled with friendship, bravery, and the beauty of connections formed against all odds. The journey had not only changed her, but had also reshaped the fabric of her life. The gym erupted in applause, drowning out the sound of Mia Reynolds' heart pounding in her chest. She stood frozen, hands gripping the edge of her seat, eyes fixated on the principal at the podium. Board has voted, your new student body president is. The name sliced through the air like a knife, and her stomach twisted. She muttered under her breath, rolling her eyes so hard she thought they might get stuck. The cheers around her only amplified her disbelief. Ethan, with his perfect smile and effortless charm, was the last person she wanted leading their student body. Mia glanced at her friend Jenna, who was practically bouncing on her toes. Jenna exclaimed, her excitement contagious. Awesome for him maybe, Mia scoffed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Ethan Carter had always turned heads and commanded attention. He was tall, athletic, and charming in a way that made everyone believe whatever he said. But to Mia, he was just another popular kid whose charisma masked a facade of substance. She thought, bitterness rising like bile. As students mingled after the announcement, Mia felt increasingly isolated. She had always preferred to keep her distance from the popular crowd, but this was different. The cheers for Ethan echoed in her ears as she watched him bask in the spotlight, surrounded by a sea of adoring fans. This is so typical, she thought, anger boiling just under the surface. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's presidency quickly became a focal point in their school. Posters with his face plastered on every wall read, "Vote for Ethan." Each poster felt like another jab, another reminder of his victory. Mia found herself wishing she could tear them down, feeling suffocated by the attention he commanded. A classmate exclaimed one afternoon. Mia seated herself at a far table in the cafeteria, trying to drown out the endless chatter surrounding her. Each mention of Ethan's name brought a pulse of frustration to her head. I can't believe this is really happening, Mia whispered to Jenna, glancing over at the group surrounding Ethan, their faces lit up with anticipation. He's just so, maybe he'll surprise you, Jenna replied, shrugging. Mia rolled her eyes again, but a hint of doubt crept into her heart. What if she was being too harsh? Still, the skepticism loomed large in her mind, fueled by memories of Ethan strolling through the hallways, always surrounded by his loyal subjects. Then came the day of the charity event announcement, the first big initiative under Ethan's leadership. The school buzzed with excitement, and a mixture of dread and curiosity filled Mia. He's just going to use this to boost his popularity, she thought, crossing her arms tightly as she watched from a distance. The event promised to be grand, a collaborative effort to raise funds for the local community center, complete with games, activities, and food. But as the days crept closer, Mia found it increasingly difficult to ignore the flicker of excitement igniting within her. One afternoon, while looking for a quiet space to study, Mia stumbled into the gym where the planning meetings were happening. She froze in the doorway, watching as Ethan animatedly rallied the students, mapping out ideas on a whiteboard. He continued as laughter erupted around him. Against her better judgment, she stepped inside, curiosity getting the best of her. As Ethan caught sight of her, the room fell quiet, and Mia felt a wave of heat wash over her. Hey Mia, Ethan called out, his smile wide and inviting. Mia hesitated, but something inside her stirred. She found herself nodding, surprising herself as she moved to sit at the back of the room. The meeting progressed, and to her shock, she began to enjoy the energy in the room. Ethan's enthusiasm was infectious. Let's break into groups and brainstorm ideas, he said, and that nagging doubt in Mia's mind started to fade. Over the next few weeks, the charity event became a whirlwind of activity. As they worked together, Mia found herself laughing and sharing ideas with Ethan. She couldn't help but notice how he genuinely listened, encouraging contributions from everyone. Honestly, I never expected this, she admitted one day as they organized details for the bake sale. Ethan raised an eyebrow, his playful grin fading. I thought you'd just be, putting on a show, Mia replied, suddenly feeling vulnerable. He chuckled, shaking his head. I get that a lot, but I can't change things just by being popular. They worked side by side, and as the days turned into weeks, Mia found herself drawn into the project. The event loomed closer, excitement swirling as rumors of success fluttered through the hallways. They had really managed to unite the school for a cause. The atmosphere hit a fever pitch the night of the charity event. The gym was transformed into a dazzling display of lights and color. Students flooded in, laughter filling the air as energy ignited the space. When Ethan took the stage, the crowd quieted, anticipation crackling like electricity. He exclaimed, his voice strong and genuine. Mia watched from the back, her heart filling with unexpected pride. The students responded, cheers echoing as the performers took the stage, showcasing talents and igniting cheers that rolled across the room. Then it happened. As the night progressed, a shadow swept into the light. A rumor floated through the crowd, a whisper that soon turned into chaos. Did you hear? Mia's heart plummeted and panic swirled as she stumbled into the throng of students, disbelief etched on her face. This can't be happening, she gasped, feeling the weight of their judgment hanging heavy in the air. The atmosphere shifted dramatically, tension crackling like a live wire as the crowd turned against Ethan in an instant. He's lying, voices rang out, and Mia felt her world tilting. She rushed to find Ethan, who stood at the edge of the stage, visibly shaken as he faced the rising tide of accusations. He pleaded, but doubt had swallowed the room. Mia's heart raced, a fire igniting within her. She stepped forward. Listen, everyone, this isn't fair. Ethan has worked tirelessly for us. The crowd fell silent for a moment, curiosity piqued. She locked eyes with Ethan, whose expression flickered between hope and despair. She continued, her voice trembling but steady. Slowly, other classmates began to echo her sentiments, sharing their own experiences with Ethan, how he had connected with them, how he had made them feel valued. The collective spirit began to rise, a wave of unity battling against doubt. As Ethan's courage returned, he stepped forward, his voice steadying. We are all in this together. If I've led you astray, then I'll accept that. With each word, the crowd began to shift. Shouted one student. More voices joined in, chanting his name, fighting back against the shadows of doubt. It became a resonating call for support, and the palpable change reminded Mia of how powerful their unity could be. In that moment of triumph, silence enveloped them as the truth unfolded, clarity settling like morning light. Mia felt electrified, a renewed sense of hope surging through her veins. They could not only change their future, but reclaim their power together. Days passed as they banded together to rebuild trust within their school. Ethan's presidency regained footing, stronger than before. Amid all this, Mia found that her feelings toward him had shifted once more. He had resilience she hadn't noticed before. Then came the fateful day when Ethan prepared to give his graduation speech, a platform to address both the highs and lows of their journey. As graduation drew near, anticipation hung in the air, fragrant with possibility. But the night before graduation, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that something tangible was on the horizon. Her stomach churned with anxiety as Ethan paced in her living room. Some wires crossed behind his smile as he struggled with his speech. I want to do this right, he said, running a hand through his hair. There's so much I want to say, but what if I choke? Mia felt her heart race, the weight of the moment settling in. Ethan, you won't. As they practiced late into the night, her words reassured him, but doubt still flickered behind his blue eyes. Maybe it echoed her disbelief from before, how this journey had transformed them both. Graduation day arrived, and the gym buzzed with excitement, filled to the brim with the families and friends of students ready to celebrate. Accomplishments took center stage, yet Mia felt a nagging tension in the air. When Ethan stood before the crowd, the uncertainty returned. He opened his mouth to speak, but to everyone's shock, his voice faltered. Mia leaned forward, fear clenching at her heart. The air thickened, anticipation mingling with anxiety. She gripped the edge of her chair, watching as he hesitated, the stakes of the moment hanging in balance. The words hung in the air like a cold draft. The crowd fell silent, eyes glued to him. Mia's breath caught in her throat. She could only see the uncertainty clouding his features. She shouted, instinctively rising from her seat. You can do this. A rush of voices urged him on, but the fear in his eyes remained. He took a deep breath, the moment teetering on a knife's edge, and Mia felt every heartbeat in the room thrumming together in perfect unison. What would happen next? Would his words break through the silence, or would he fold under the pressure? In that electrifying instant, the possibility of everything they had built felt dangerously fragile, hanging by a thread. As she stood there, poised on the precipice of doubt and courage, she knew that whatever came next would change everything, forever.